Imagine that you write and perform your own children's songs. And for years, you've been performing these songs in various schools and school systems across the country. Songs that you wrote and have been playing in the same schools for years. And then imagine that someone in the school system suddenly decides that your songs are not appropriate for children because they encourage bad behavior. Then, another school system hears about it, and they ban you and your songs as well. Soon, the entire country is reconsidering their take on your brand of children's songs. What happens next? What do you do? Where can you turn? Pura Vida! I'm Tim Rose, and this is the Tim Tunes Podcast. In this episode, we'll be interviewing Barry Louis Polisar. Barry is a renowned singer, songwriter, performer, poet, and novelist. His career spans almost 5 decades and has so many twists and turns, we'll need 2 episodes to fit them all in. In this episode, we'll discover Barry's beginnings, how he started, and what led him to his success. So sit back, buckle up, and come along for the ride. I've struggled to summarize Barry's career, so I'm just going to quote from Barry's website, barrylou.com. That's BARRYLOU.com. Here we go. Barry Louis Polisar is an author, songwriter, poet, and storyteller for children, who also writes songs and books for adults. He performs his songs on 2 different Grammy Award-winning albums and sings his song, All I Want Is You, in the opening credits of the Academy Award-winning movie Juno. Barry's songs are featured in television shows, feature films, and dozens of TV ads throughout the world. His books and poems have been translated into other languages, and his songs have been recorded and performed by singers and musicians internationally. He's written songs for Sesame Street and The Weekly Reader, and starred in a television show for children that won 2 Emmy Awards. A 5-time Parents' Choice Award winner, Barry is a pioneer in the world of music for children. He has recorded and shared his songs, poems, stories, and books with audiences throughout the world, and has performed at the White House, the Smithsonian, and the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. He gives concerts and author visits in schools and performing arts centers from Washington, D.C. to Fairbanks, Alaska, and was given a special Library Recognition Award for his ability to communicate with and excite children to read. His work has been featured on National Public Radio and written about in the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, Newsweek, and People magazine. That's quite the resume, I'm sure you'll agree. We started our conversation on the stoop of Barry's farm on a fine summer's day in Montgomery County, Maryland. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Pleasure. Happy to do it.
This is thank you for welcoming me into your lovely home. This is a beautiful setting. I love it.
Yeah, we've been here about 24 years now. It was a junkyard when we bought it. It was a piece of property that had been owned by the previous owner and used. Well, like the line in Alice's Restaurant, with all those pews, they didn't have to take the trash out for a long time. Here we had 24 acres, and they didn't have to have trash collection for a long time. They were junked cars and tires. I actually have a story on my website called Tireless Efforts about the year and a half that it took to clean and restore this property.
Well, it's beautiful now. I mean, I think bucolic comes to mind.
It's absolutely. The only problem is I never want to leave.
I can understand that.
It's just a perfect
I can understand
spot.
that. I don't think I would either.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. Who's our dog here?
And this is Clover. This is maybe our 4th or 5th rescue dog that we've had over the years, over the decades. She's a full-bred collie.
Wow.
I can't imagine somebody gave her up.
You know what I love about your songs is you're always creating a character when you sing. A lot of times, you'll sing you're not singing necessarily from your point of view, but from a child's point of view, or whoever, the dog or the, whatever.
My wife says I have an empathy with that because It's basic immaturity. That's what she said. Basic. You know, we've one of my favorite singer-songwriters is Loudon Wainwright.
Sure.
And we've seen him many, many times. And you know, boy, talk about somebody who can draw on that sort of irreverence and maybe even in a little instability, and certainly, you know, he just bears his soul in his songwriting, and funny stuff, but also really, really poignant stuff. And I think, especially my early stuff, was really, really very influenced by people like him, Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, Tom Paxton, Phil Oakes, and probably mostly John Prine and Chris Christopherson were early influences.
Yeah, sure. I hear you. I'm feeling all of that.
Yeah.
So I was, I love it that your songs are not, you know, they're from the kid. A lot of them are from the child's point of view, as opposed to, you know, brush your teeth and wash your clothes and have a happy day.
I know.
Let's clap our hands together, and this is what we'll say. You know, your songs are so much better than that.
Thank you. You know, when I first started performing, I mean, it's sort of an ironic story, and one that I never expected to launch a 50-year-old career. I mean, this is my 50th year now. So I was in college in 1973, 1974. I had just started. I was very late picking up the guitar. I always loved music, especially folk music, those singer-songwriters I just mentioned, but I never played an instrument. I never took music lessons of any kind. I still can't read music. My son, who, you know, plays clarinet and saxophone and a little bit of guitar and mandolin, you know, thinks it's really funny that I still, after all these years, can't read music. I joke that I only use 3 chords on almost all of my songs because I only know 4 and I don't want to show off. But while I was right out of high school, a friend of mine invited me to go with her family on a trip out west to Arizona, and her 2 older brothers were joining the family, and they had rented a cabin in Mount Lemmon outside of Tucson, and no TV, and every night her 2 brothers, we all gathered around the fireplace, and 2 brothers took out their guitars, and we played music and sang songs. And I had been in that situation before, but this time was different because they knew the songs I loved. They were singing John Prine and Chris Christopherson and Tom and Bob Dylan, and I mean, I just loved being able to share those songs and sing along. And I came back from that trip and I bought a $45 nylon string classical guitar. It hangs on my office wall still to this day. I used it to write all my early songs with. Still actually bring it down when I'm working on a song. It's just because it's an easy guitar to play.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's nylon string. And I was... So fast forward about a year later, I'm taking a college history course, and the teacher looked really familiar to me, and I went up to her and I realized we had actually crossed paths once before, and she asked me what I was doing now, and I said, well, I bought a guitar last year, and I'm learning how to write. I'm learning how to play, but I'm also writing songs. And she said, you know, I have some friends that had a women's consciousness raising group who are now about to launch an arts camp in the summer for kids. And they're looking for somebody to play music. Would you be interested? And I said, well, yeah, I've never done anything like that, but sure. She gave them my name. I met them. They were all older. I was like 22, maybe not even 20. I think I was probably no. That was actually, I was 21 when my first album came out. So I was about 19 years old, and they hired me. They liked my spirit. It was an incredible 5-week part-time gig, and then that was it. I wrote a few songs based on some of those experiences. But about a year later, I was at the University of Maryland with my guitar, and somebody said, she was a student teacher, and she said, would you consider coming to my school and doing an assembly program for the whole school? And I said, no. I said, I've never done anything like that before. I wouldn't know you want me to stand up in front of 500 kids and on stage even? I mean, it's one thing to sing for little 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds in a classroom, with sitting cross-legged on the floor, but this was an assembly program. She talked me into visiting, and I had an incredible time. And the first thing that happened was I looked around at what was children's music in 1973, 1974. 1975, and I said, I just don't like any of this. I wouldn't sing it. It's either, you have nursery rhymes and really simple teachy songs, teachy preachy songs, and then you have rock and roll, and you don't have much in between. Right. So I actually wrote 3 songs for that very first concert. My first song that I specifically wrote for kids was "I'm a three-toed, triple-eyed, double-jointed dinosaur."
I'm a three-toed, triple-eyed, double-jointed dinosaur with warts up and down my back. I eat shiny automobiles, tow trucks, and airplanes. I love to munch on railroad tracks. While I sleep all day, I get up at night. They say I am well-read. I eat 2 or 3 live berries for breakfast, and it goes right to my head.
And did the show, and I was supposed to talk to the kids in workshops in the library afterwards about songwriting, where I get ideas, how I write. Mm-hmm. Well, before the show was over, the kids just were they were incredible. They ran up to the stage, "Mr. Polisar, where did you get those songs? How do you write your songs? Where do you get your ideas?" All these great questions that I was hoping to get in the workshop. And then one of the teachers came into the assembly. This was a situation where they just dropped the kids off and picked them up at the end. And I guess she didn't realize what was going on, because she saw all the kids around the stage asking me questions, and it looked like disorder. And schools don't like disorder. And she started yelling at the kids. "What are you talking for?
Oh, boy.
This is an assembly program. You're not here to have a good time. Wipe those grins off your faces. You're acting just like children." And I sat back thinking, oh my God, this is like songwriting gold, what she's saying. And I remember, I was so disorganized. I didn't even have a piece of paper or a pencil. I asked one of the kids if he had a pencil or a pen, and I started scribbling down everything she said. "Wipe those grins off your faces. You're acting just like a child. Who gave you permission to laugh? What are you laughing for?" Well, I went home that night, that afternoon, and wrote a song about a mean teacher. Now, I was going to be a teacher. I went to college. I was going to be a teacher. And many of my friends were already student teachers. And when word spread that I had written this song about the mean teacher, almost immediately, my phone started to ring. "Is this Barry Louis Polisar?" "Yes." "Is it true that you wrote a song about a mean teacher?" "Yes." "Well, I'm a teacher, and I want to know, can you come to my school and sing that song?" And that was the last thing I expected to happen.
I got a teacher, she's so mean. She never laughs, she always screams. She says, "Pay attention and do what I said." But if you ask me, she's crazy in the head. She makes me nervous, she makes me squirm. She says all teachers must be firm. And she always calls on me when I don't raise my hand, so I answer her in ways she can't understand. She says, "What is the answer to number 2?" I say, "Ock, dock, diddy, wop, ticky, picky, poo." She says, "Now don't be funny, you better get it right." I say, "Shimmy, gimme, galla, gilly, tacky, ticky, tack." She never lets us laugh, she never lets us smile. "Wipe that grin off your face, you're acting just like a child." It's work, 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 no late papers today. She's tired of excuses, sighed, she hates me anyway. She must hate children, she must hate kids, like only regulations, and you know I never did. And she always calls on me when I don't raise my hand, so I answer her in ways she can't understand. She says, "What is the answer to number 2?" I say, "Ock, dock, diddy, wop, ticky, picky, poo." She says, now don't be funny, you better get it right. I say, shimmy, gimme, gala, gilly, tacky, ticky, tie. I never see her laughing, she's so strict. She says I'm stupid, I say she's a witch. She doesn't think it's funny when I fall off my chair. And when I call her honey, she pulls at her hair. Oh, she can't understand me, and I've got it made. But I know she really loves me, 'cause I'm still in first grade.
It seemed like every time I did a concert at a school, other schools would find out about it, would ask me if I would come to their school. I ended up putting myself through college the last couple of years of school at Maryland. And then it was time, I graduated. In fact, the song, I Want to Be a Dog, was actually a song about, okay, like, I finished college, now what do I do?
Oh, I wanna be a dog, wanna wag my tail, chase cars and knock over garbage cans, bite the man who brings the mail. Oh, I wanna be a dog, wanna lie on the floor, chase squirrels and cats, run away from rats, chew your shoe and bark at the door. Oh, I wanna be a dog, wanna dig big holes, flirt with French poodles and basset hounds, and pee on telephone poles. Oh, I wanna have dog breath, wake the neighbors too. Whoa, whoa. Well, I'll lick your hand, I'll be the best friend of man. I don't have nothing better to do. Oh, I wanna be a dog, I want my nose to be wet. I got a college degree, now all I wanna be is somebody else's pet.
The last line is, I got a college degree, now all I want to be is somebody else's pet. But that afternoon in that school, I had written 3 songs. I had written the song about the mean teacher. I was in the bathroom getting ready to do the show, and there was a kid in there who was hanging out in the bathroom because he didn't want to go back to class. And I remember telling him, well, you probably should, because there's an assembly coming up in about 10 minutes, and you'll probably have a good time. And then a third song called Shut Up in the... So I wrote, that song was I Don't Believe You're Going to the Bathroom, and then a third song called Shut Up in the Library. And overnight, I had doubled my repertoire from 3 songs to 6 songs, and
Now you had a half hour.
And I had a half an hour.
Half an hour with talking.
I had a show, and then every experience was a song. I would be over my mother's house for dinner with my younger brothers, who were considerably younger than I was. She tried to get them to eat their broccoli by saying, well, look at Barry, your older brother Barry's eating his broccoli, why can't you be like him? And being the oldest in the family, I remembered I was always compared to the kid that lived next door. He eats asparagus, why can't you be that way? Was the song I wrote based on that.
Whenever I am naughty, whenever I am bad, whenever I do something to make my parents mad, like the time I bit the mailman or left stuff on the floor, Mommy says, why can't you be like the boy who lives next door?
So every experience would produce a new song, especially that first year. I mean, I had within 3 or 4 months of that very first school show, I had written the better part of 19 songs.
Wow.
And I'd gotten requests to play parks, with the Parks and Recreation Department, hired me in the summertime. And this was all word of mouth. I wasn't setting out to have this as a career. I didn't expect it. I didn't plan for it. And I did very little to make it happen. I knew the dean at the college where I was at. And one day I'm walking by, and I say hello, and he says hello, and then he says, what you up to? Just kind of as a greeting. And I said, you want to know? And he stopped. He said, yeah, I would like to know. I said, well, I had these concerts in the school in the spring, and I've been writing songs. And he said, oh, you should talk to my friend. She runs the Park and Planning Commission, where they send performers out into the parks. So I called her and got hired for 19 concerts a week.
A week?
A week. They were all like half-hour shows from playground to playground, 4 a day. 4 a day for 4 days. I did a couple extra shows with another county because if it worked in one county, I figured it would work in another county. And by the end of that summer, I had made more money than I ever thought I would make at $20 a show, mind you.
Yeah.
And I had saved every penny, and I had, I don't know, $400 or $500. And I said every concert I did, people would come up, the adults would come up, and say. Every concert I did, the adults would come up and say, "Well, those are really funny songs. Where did you learn them?" And I would say, "Well, I wrote them." And then the next question, "Do you have an album?" And you hear that often enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, by the end of the summer, I said, I'm just going to play this forward. I'm going to take every penny that I made doing these summer concerts, and I'm going to go into a recording studio, one take, my first album. I mean. It was rough and off key, and the guitar was out of tune in half the songs because I literally, like Woody Guthrie, just jump in the studio, one take, boom, and did an album just so I could, when people said, "Hey, those are funny songs, do you have an album?" I could say, "Here." Yeah. And it was a people before profit enterprise. I didn't expect it to make money. I didn't expect it would be a career. It was my way of giving back.
I need you like a donut needs a hole, like pianos need fingers, heart and soul. We go together like peanuts in a shell. I'm gonna hold you in my arms like water in a well. And I love you like flowers love the sun, like birds like to fly, and kids like to run, like trees love leaves, and leaves turn brown, like rabbits in a meadow, like to hop around.
We've been listening to clips from some of Barry Louis Polisar's earliest songs. First, we heard clips from the following songs. I'm a three-toed, triple-eyed, double-jointed dinosaur. The next clip is from the song, I've Got a Teacher, She's So Mean, followed by an excerpt from the song, I Want to Be a Dog. Then, a little bit of the song, He Eats Asparagus, Why Can't You Be That Way? And finally, I Need You Like a Donut Needs a Hole. These are just a few of the 19 songs on Barry's first album titled I Eat Kids and Other Songs for Rebellious Children, which features, of course, Barry on guitar and vocals. I chose some of the versions of the songs that Barry re-recorded on later albums. On those songs, he's accompanied by Ray Tilkins, his longtime accompanist and arranger. Now, let's get back to our conversation and find out what happened after the release of Barry's first album.
And then 2 years later, I had enough songs for a second album, and I just took everything that I made on the first album and plowed it into the second.
Now, we're talking vinyl at that point.
We are talking vinyl. This would be, first album came out just as I was turning 21 in 1975, and the second album came out in the spring of 77.
So you did the whole process of like going into the studio, recording, mastering, sending the masters off to
get lacquers
somewhere.
made. There was actually a company right outside of Baltimore in Cockeysville that actually had a small pressing plant and a lacquering. I think I don't know if they did their own press. I know they did their own pressings because I was there many, many times in those early years. Because I would literally drive to Baltimore, to Cockeysville, to pick up the albums when they were ready. And it was all a homemade thing. I mean, I remember my wife and we'd go to the grocery store and get cardboard boxes, and we'd score templates, and that's how I would mail out my mail orders. I mean, by folding the cardboard. I mean, it was, when I think back on those days, I mean, it never seemed difficult or hard, but when I think about like
everything you did,
I just drive to get the albums. I would take them to the post office. I mean, not long ago, I met up with a gentleman who reminded me that he used to work at the post office in those mid to late 70 years, and he remembered me coming in with my piles of mail orders.
Wow!
But yeah, so those were the origins of that.
I got a dog and my dog's name is Cat. Bet you never heard a thing half as crazy as that. But not only that, I got a cat, and Cat's name is Dog like dog's name is Cat. Now with my dog Cat and my cat dog, I confuse who's who, the cat or the dog. Now I bet you think that's pretty absurd, but wait till you hear about my fish bird. Yeah, I got a dog and my dog's name is Cat. Bet you never heard a thing half as crazy as that. But not only that, I got a cat, and Cat's name is Dog like dog's name is Cat. Now my fish bird lives in my fish tank next to my pet goose who goes hank hank. But listen to me and just hear this. I got a bird and I call him Fish. Yeah, I got a dog and my dog's name is Cat. Bet you never heard a thing half as crazy as that. But not only that, I got a cat, and Cat's name is Dog like dog's name is Cat. With my goose, my bird, my dog, fish, and cat, people all stare when I tip my hat, 'cause it's strange as can be when we walk in the park. Stranger still when the cat starts to bark. Yeah, I got a dog and my dog's name is Cat. Bet you never heard a thing half as crazy as that. But not only that, I got a cat, and Cat's name is Dog like dog's name is Cat.
That was, believe it or not, I've Got a Dog and My Dog's Name is Cat. Recorded on Barry's second album. I guess Barry was slacking off a bit because he only recorded 17 tracks on that album. The album is titled My Brother Thinks He's a Banana and Other Provocative Songs for Children, which was released in 1977. This album contains some of Barry's most popular songs, including Our Dog Bernard, Tomorrow, and of course, the title cut. It also includes the song All I Want Is You. More about that in part 2. Now, let's get back to our conversation as we discussed Barry's early years.
That's great. So you've always kind of lived in this area.
Yeah, I grew up in Adelphi, born in Brooklyn. My mom moved back down to the D.C. area because that's where her parents were, and lived in Adelphi with my mom and my stepfather and siblings, half siblings. And then right as I was starting my career singing in the schools, my grandmother, who lived about 5 miles away, had cancer and needed somebody in the house, but knew that we would spoil our perfect relationship if we lived on the same floor. So she said, I have this unfinished attic space that has all the plumbing roughed in, and if you want to take that space and carve yourself a little garret apartment up there, and I did.
How appropriate for a writer.
It was exactly appropriate for a writer. And I lived there. Gosh, we my wife and I, eventually, after we were married, we actually bought the house from my mom, who inherited it when my grandmother passed away. And then we lived there. Gosh, we raised our kids there. We lived there, I lived there from 75 until 2001, about 25, 26 years, when we had the opportunity to buy this rundown farm that was in that 4 miles from the other house.
Wow.
We kept the same school, the same friends, the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
The kids didn't even have to change high schools. It was an easy transition.
And how many children do you have?
We have twins. We have a boy and a girl who are now 37 years old.
Yeah, you have a song about twins.
Oh, I have a whole album. I have an album. It was originally called Juggling Babies in a Career, and I was actually on the cover juggling the kids
babies,
and instruments at the same time. And I later, when I moved from vinyl to CD, I shortened it to Juggling Babies because everybody thought it was an adult album.
I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa. The world is my oyster, I am the king. I love it when I'm visiting. They let me do most anything when I see Grandma and Grandpa. Oh, I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa. I can ride on the dog, I can roll on the rug, hang on Grandpa's clothes with his nose a tug, turn the radio on and chew on the plug when I see Grandma and Grandpa. Oh, I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa. I get toys and books get washed, get fed. I get to stay up, don't have to go to bed. They bounce me around and read to me instead when I see Grandma and Grandpa. Oh, I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa. They take me to the store, they take me to the zoo. They buy me anything that I ask them to. They're never ever tired and I'm overdue to see my Grandma and Grandpa. Oh, I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa. Oh, I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa. I can do anything, anything I want to, anything I want to, anything I want to. I can do anything, anything I want to when I see Grandma and Grandpa.
And it has an appeal to adults
Yeah,
with kids,
yeah.
but it was basically songs like "Don't Wake Up the Baby" or "The Baby Will Get You." One of my favorite songs it was a monster song that turns out to be about diaper rash. And that's a great song to do in concert in the school shows because the kids are expecting a monster song and then the chorus comes on. It's diaper rash.
Comes when you are sleeping alone in your bed.
It's diaper rash, a diaper rash, a diaper rash. It's diaper rash, a diaper rash, a diaper rash. The diaper rash will get you if you don't watch out. You'll grit your teeth, gnash your jaw, and thrash your feet about. Nothing will ever help you, except Vaseline or gel. You won't drive it away, no matter how you yell. Diaper rash, diaper rash, diaper rash.
You have a good sense of morals in your song. It's not like be obedient, be cheerful,
Be honest, be truthful, and that's, I mean, Wilfred Owen, the poet, the World War I poet, said, that the main thing a poet needs to be is to be truthful. Mm-hmm. And so that really has influenced my songwriting in the sense that, I write songs about kids who are sometimes disobedient or act out, but they often do get punished. Not because I'm trying to create a moral, but because I'm trying to portray, you harass your babysitter, no babysitters are going to come back. Even the song about the mean teacher, the chorus of that song, and by the way, it has all these lines that the teacher said, wipe those grins off your face, you're acting just like a child. But the chorus is, she always calls on me when I don't raise my hand, so I answer her in ways she can't understand. She says, what is the answer to number 2? I say, ock, knock, diddy, wop, dicky, picky, poo. But the last line is, she can't understand me, and I've got it made, but I know she really loves me, because I'm still in first grade. So it flips on itself. And I think anybody who actually listens through that song, kind of gets it. It's not trying to be preachy or moralistic, but it is trying to portray the world truthfully, the way things work.
A bee will sting you, sad but true, but also true, they say, is when he stings you, he will die, a costly price to pay. So let that be a lesson for those you'd like to hurt, deceive, destroy, connive against, damage, or desert. The rule is really simple. Beware this little thing. Be careful you're not poisoned by the poison in your sting.
You have a lot of stuff it's like poetry set to music. I like those. Those are pretty good. And you know what I really like was the bee. About stinging.
Yes,
and, the bee dies and
be careful.
So
So there's a tradition in poetry cautionary tales. They're called cautionary tales, and they're often very funny. I mean, they are cautionary, but they're mostly humorous. I think Edward Gorey did some, and Shel Silverstein certainly has a lot of those cautionary tales, and so I sprinkled a lot of my poems in with some of those early albums, and then I had an opportunity to re-record a lot of my songs with a budget like 20, 30 years later, and I experimented musically as well as lyrically with tightening lyrics, but also playing around with the different musical styles.
I know this sounds funny, but I'm afraid that it's true. There's something so simple I simply can't do. Lots of people talking, you'd laugh if you knew. I just never learned how to tie my shoe. Something that I exude, but none of my talents seem to include how to tie up the lace on my shoe. I think their behavior is awfully rude. They ask me to dance, I have to refuse. I just don't know how to tie my shoes. I can play the guitar, I can sing the blues, I can sing falsetto, sing bass too. I just can't seem to tie my shoe.
Thought was inspired by a Led Zeppelin song.
Oh, I Can't Tie My Shoes?
Yes.
Boom, boom, boom. Again, a rewrite of,
Been Dazed and Confused.
Been Dazed and Confused.
That's what I thought
tie my
was.
shoes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, all the audio clues are there. And that, by the way, is my sound engineer, Ray Tilkins, in the studio that I've been working with since 1987. He is masterful. He actually for a while played with Root Boy Slim, but also has been a sound engineer and does session work and studio work. He plays guitar, slide guitar, bass, electric guitar, lead, rhythm, piano. I mean, he is the most versatile guy.
Is he the guy doing the lap? Guitar?
He lap steel.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically call him my orchestra because he's great. And so, not only did he record the albums, but I paid him individually for each part that he played on each song because they gave such a texture to the songs.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to think like I feel almost like those are the albums I created for myself because I had the rough skeletons of songs from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and then when I started working with Ray, we added all this texture and they're musically far superior, but in terms of my concerts, it's just me and the guitar, and those are the albums that seem to be the ones that really people gravitate to.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Still.
That's great.
But they've been around. I mean, I Eat Kids, My Brother Thinks He's a Banana, Naughty Songs for Boys and Girls. Those are the albums that have just been around longer.
Forever,
And people who had the albums in the 70s and 80s are now have kids, now have grandkids.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they want to promote.
Our dog Bernard lived in the backyard till one warm July day, when our dog Bernard, who lived in the backyard, decided to run away. Left a note taped to the front door. I'm tired of this life, he said. I'm tired of eating dog food and getting chased off of the bed. Well, our dog Bernard lived in the backyard till one warm July day, when our dog Bernard, who lived in the backyard, decided to run away. He ran off with the bus driver and is living with her now, I'm told. Spends all his time watching television.
Which channel do you want to watch? I'm
Get
going to watch the show
back.
over here on that. Whoa.
Growing old. When our dog Bernard lived in the backyard till one warm July day, when our dog Bernard, who lived in the backyard, decided to run away. Oh, Bernard, come back with your tail wagging. You know that I love you. I'll let you drive the station wagon. I'll make it all up to you. Our dog Bernard lived in the backyard till one warm July day, when our dog Bernard, who lived in the backyard, decided to run away.
I was noticing, I mean, you do have a song about a cat. And you do have a song where, you know, your dog is named Cat and your cat is named Dog.
Right.
But generally, I see a lot more dogs than I see cats in your songs.
Well, yeah, I do have. Let's see, I want to be a dog. Oh, I want to be a dog. I want to wag my tail, chase cars and knock over garbage cans, bite the man who brings the mail. I've got a dog. My dog's name is Cat. Our dog Bernard, about a dog
Yes.
who runs away from home, runs away to New Jersey, and yeah, and then I have a couple of the most recent one I think was a song. Gosh, what is it called? I know I can remember I just like a rusted pickup truck that's missing its front wheel when you're not beside me. That's just the way I feel. Like peanut butter without jam. Like I can't even remember all the lyrics.
Yeah.
It's not the song I sing a lot, but it almost sounds very spiritual, but it's actually about a dog.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
It's like Martha.
Yeah.
Martha, My Dear, right?
Yeah.
By Paul
But
McCartney.
the Beatles are it.
Just like a rusty pickup truck, it's missing its front wheel. When you're not beside me, that's just the way I feel. Like peanut butter without jam, or peaches without cream. A whistling tea kettle that's running out of steam. Some people search for meaning, but I see it so clear. I'm glad to be alive and I am happy with you here. I know I am so lucky to have you by my side. The clouds all lift, the sky is blue, the world is big and wide. Walking through the morning mist to catch the early light, or listening to the crickets underneath the moonlit night. Some people search for meaning, but I see it so clear. Glad to be alive, and I am happy with you here. Door. Constant as the stars above, or the waves up on the shore. You come running when I call to play a game of catch. Rest your head up on my lap to get a little scratch. Some people search for meaning, but I see it so clear. Glad to be alive, and I am happy with you here. Glad to be alive, and I'm happy with you here.
So relative to cats, I do have a couple cat songs. My mom was an infamous cat woman growing up. She had 27 cats.
Wow.
If you were to walk into my office, you would see the Sandy Scoggin poster of, I think it's called Radioactive Cats, this woman feeding like 30 cats. Yeah. It's a great poster, and I saw it in an art museum in New York, and I said, I have to get a print of that, and been in my office ever since. But growing up that way, I sort of had an antagonism with that many cats. We have a cat, and we've always had a cat, not 27 cats.
There's no substitute for a cat, round and soft and often fat, sitting in the window in the sun. A dog won't ever be this much fun.
A cat will sleep at the foot of your bed, or curl up in a ball right by your head. She'll lick her paws and start to doze. She'll sleep in a basket filled with clothes. There's no substitute for a cat, round and soft and often fat, sitting in the window in the sun. A dog won't ever be this much fun. Cat will sleep curled up on the rug, or in a cardboard box, really snug. She'll sleep on the sofa.
And so I've always thought if somebody ever did a psychological evaluation of my older songs, they would say this person has been traumatized by cats. There's a line. I have a song about two kids that are left alone with a babysitter called "When the House is Dark and Quiet." Mm-hmm. Late at night when Mommy and Daddy have gone out, me and my brother get to scream and jump and shout, 'cause the house is dark and quiet, and we're left all alone with another teenage babysitter talking on the phone. We tiptoe on our tiptoes. We listen to her laugh while the water is running, so she thinks we're in the bath. She tells her friend she's hungry, so we know just how to tease her. We go and get the kitty cat and hide it in the freezer. Cindy opens up the door. You should have seen her leap. Then we tell her that's the place where the kitty always sleeps. Anyway, it's all these things that the kids do, and then in the end, you know, they can't understand why no one wants to stay with them. Mom and Dad can't go out because nobody will come and babysit for them.
Late at night when Mommy and Daddy have gone out, me and my brother get to scream and jump and shout, 'cause the house is dark and quiet, and we're left all alone with another teenage babysitter talking on the phone. We tiptoe on our tiptoes and we listen to her laugh while the water is running, so she thinks we're in the bath. She tells her friend she's hungry, so we know just how to tease her. We go and get the kitty cat and hide it in the freezer. As Cindy opens up the where the kitty always sleeps. She starts yelling, then she sends us both to bed. But Tim and me don't understand a single thing she says. Tim and I are finally lying sound asleep. She settles on the sofa and turns on the TV. So Tim sneaks to the basement to disconnect the fuse, while I am in the attic thumping in my father's shoes. Cindy checks the TV set, examining the plug, while I crawl across the living room underneath the rug. We go and cook the goldfish in the toilet bowl and spread strawberry jelly on the toilet paper roll. Standing on the sofa with carrots up our noses, pretending we are monsters not wearing any clothes. Cindy says she won't come back, just like Mike and Sue, Melody and Barbara, and John and Linda too. Mom and Dad can't leave us now, though we know that they must. But we can't understand why no one wants to stay with us.
34 years ago, a school district in Anne Arundel County tried to have me banned from performing in the schools. Oh. Now, I had been working in the schools all across the country for decades, but for some reason, this one high school music teacher, he didn't work with elementary school kids. He was a high school music teacher in Anne Arundel County, in one of the neighboring counties. And it wasn't even for conservative reasons. You would think, oh, he didn't, he thought my songs were questioning authority or didn't like my irreverence. He felt that some of my songs might be really hurtful to kids who might not understand the humor, who might take my songs literally.
Oh, so you were canceled.
It was, I guess it was early cancel culture.
Yeah.
I mean, and I argued. I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, a song like Don't Put Your Finger Up Your Nose, if somebody takes that song literally, don't put your finger up your nose, it's not bad advice.
Right.
Never cook your sister in a frying pan. I'm saying never cook, even if they took it literally. Yeah. And so he objected, and he actually had my name pulled. He represented himself as a member of the Anne Arundel County School Board, and he was actually a high school music teacher who was part of the music curriculum division.
Yeah.
And the school pulled my stuff, and it was a big legal case. I ended up, the ACLU heard about it and assigned a lawyer to me who is my lawyer to this day, all these years later. It was a major newspaper story in the front page, in the style section of the Washington Post and the Baltimore Sun, the AP Newswire, NPR. It made the Canadian broadcasting system. Everybody
covered. You can't buy that kind of publicity.
No, except when you talk censorship and children together, it doesn't work like censorship for adults.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all my work dried up.
Wow.
I had schools would call me up and say, we've had you every year for the last 10 years, but my principal doesn't want anything controversial anymore. Well, it was never controversial before, but suddenly it was controversial.
Right.
And the PTAs were afraid of the school administrators. The school administrators were afraid of the school board, and not just in Anne Arundel. This was statewide, and it ended up being almost all across the country because of this massive publicity thing that happened. which happened because that was the year that 2 Live Crew was on trial in Miami for obscenity. Dennis Barry was on trial in Ohio for showing them Robert Mapplethorpe photographs.
Yeah.
And
Well, that was a long time ago.
it was 1990.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, this was, there was, there were things in Congress because they were funding arts that people felt were irreverent. So now they were attacking humorous songs for kids.
So we've come to the end of part 1 of our conversation with Barry Louis Polisar. If you want to find out what happens next, then you'll have to listen to part 2. In part 2, we'll find out how Barry overcame his band. We'll also discuss how his song, All I Want Is You, was chosen to be used in the movie Juno, and then what came next. Then, we'll discuss Barry's rewrite project, and finally, what's next for this very creative and prolific artist. So join us next time as we finish the Barry Polisar story. By the way, if you didn't get enough silliness in this episode, stick around after the outro for a little postscript that I just couldn't resist. Also, I'd like to thank my contributing patrons Larry Green, James Leach, Terry Sullivan, and the late Sally Sislak. Your contributions have made it possible for me to continue the podcast. If you'd like to support me and the podcast, you can stream my songs online at whatever music streaming service you use. If you offer a comment or review, that goes a long way towards increasing my reach. If you'd like an ad-free version of the podcast, you can find one on patreon.com by becoming a subscriber. If you'd like to make a one-time contribution, you can do so at Rimtoes on Venmo or PayPal. That's Rimtoes, Rimtoes. It's an anagram of Tim Rose. Thanks for listening. I'll be back in a few weeks with part 2 of our interview with Barry Louis Polisar. Until then, Pura Vida. And now, here is Turkeys in the Straw from Barry's album, Juggling Babies.